Hello everyone, welcome to my book reviews for October, and I did get through 6 books. A lot of them are paranormals, witchy, kind of horror type of books, which were great reading for like October and the Halloween period. So I'll start with the first book, and that is The Once and Future Witches by Alex Harrow. And this takes place in New Salem in 1893. It follows 3 sisters, Juniper, Agnes, and Beatrice, and their mother passed away when she was giving birth to the youngest, Juniper, and they were raised by a very abusive father. When the 2 older ones were teenagers, they left the house and never to come back, and they left Juniper to be raised by her father, and she's very upset and angry that her 2 sisters kind of left her in the care of her abusive father. Eventually Juniper does leave, and she finally does find her 2 sisters, and during this period of time there is the women's suffragette movement. They're trying to get the vote. There has been a past history of witches, and the witches being burned and killed, and there is still some magic left in the world. Like, there is still, some women have pretty good powers, but they can't use them, or they're repressed because they're afraid of being burned at the stake, kind of thing. So a lot of women do actually have some just minor charms that they can do just to sort of help out with their lives and that sort of thing. So they get kind of wrapped up in the suffragette movement, and along the way they do find out that they do have these sort of magical abilities. And the one, I think it's the mayor, the political figure anyhow, is very much against women, and he wants to destroy this kind of upcoming witch movement and that sort of thing. It's really, I really did enjoy this book. It did kind of drag at the end, but the last third of it really picked up, and it was very hard to put down. So it was kind of like a feminist book, a very misogynistic book about men and their power over women, and how, I mean, women couldn't even vote. If they did use any little bit of power, that kind of witch power that they did have, they were, there was a chance that they could be killed. So they kind of want to take back their power. So yeah, I give this about a 4.5 stars. I really, really enjoyed that one. And then the next one is The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. So this is the first book of hers that I have read. I do have a couple of her other books, and I really enjoyed this one, so I'm looking forward to those ones. So this is a dual timeline. The first timeline is in Vermont in 1950, and then in present day. So in 1950, there's a boarding school in Vermont. It's fairly isolated, and it is a boarding school for troubled girls. And there's 4 roommates, and during the book and throughout the book, we find out about each of their backstories and why they did end up at this boarding school. And sometimes it's just like a reason, like the one girl, it was illegitimate and her father is quite wealthy. Another one, she saw her uncle attempt suicide, and she kind of had a nervous breakdown. She was sent there. So there's just a wide variety of reasons that they were sent to this boarding school. And there is a ghost. There is a lot of ghostly happenings. A lot of people have seen this ghost. And then one of the 4 roommates goes to visit some relatives and never comes back. So they assume that maybe she just was taken in by some of these relatives, but they just find it strange that she didn't come back. And then in present day, there is a journalist called Fiona, and her sister was murdered by a boyfriend 20 years previously, and the boyfriend is now in jail. And she's never really kind of gotten over it. She just doesn't feel like she's got a lot of closure. She finds out the boarding school, which has been abandoned for many, many years, she finds out that this company is going to refurbish it and reopen it, and she thinks that's very, very strange. Like, who'd want to take this on? And while she's investigating, certain clues come out about what did happen to her sister, and there's also this ghost has been seen in present day also. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. The characters were good. Their backstories were fascinating. I mean, how many of these young children and women and that were put into these institutions for just kind of like a minor reasons, though none of their reasons were that minor, but they just didn't know how to deal with mental health issues, nothing like that back then. So they're just put in these boarding schools and mistreated and that. So yeah, I did like I do like dual timelines. You really felt for some of these characters, yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. So I'm looking forward to her other books. So yeah, I give this about a 4-star. And then this is Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulek. So I was really looking forward to this one. I really like the synopsis. It's about a woman who comes out of rehab, and she's been clean for about 18 months, but she has trouble getting a job. So she is able to find employment with this couple, watching their 5-year-old son one summer. And yeah, the child loves to draw, and what I do like about this book is it had these pictures throughout. So these are the pictures that he was starting to draw, but as the weeks go by, they get a little more complex and almost like they're trying to tell a story. And yeah, they get quite good after a while. So yeah, this... It was creepy because there's maybe a little bit what could be paranormal happening. You know, why is this child, why is his drawings improving so much, and is it trying to tell a story? But there's parts of it I just didn't click with me. And this has gotten very, very good reviews on Goodreads. I mean, many, many reviews, and it's like 4-point-something star rating, which is fairly high. So people like it. So I'm not saying you won't like it, but there's just a lot of things that I didn't enjoy about it. There's a lot of weird political undertones to it. I'm like, I watch the news every day. I like to keep up, but, you know, I don't need to read about in books. So there's just weird political undertone, which was, to me, totally unnecessary. It just didn't add to the story. Like, the one neighbor came over and introduced herself to the main character who was babysitting, and introduced herself and goes, I'm a libertarian, and blah, 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 I believe in this and believe... And I'm like, what's the point? Like, it just... And there's... like religion versus atheism, and the weird misconceptions about atheism, and it was just kind of weird. They're just bringing stuff up that I don't know if it was just the author's point of view or what he was just wanted to bring it across. I don't know. I just found it irritating and completely unnecessary. And also the ending was just a mess. And I've heard a lot of reviews. They said, yeah, the book was pretty good until the ending. Like, what the heck was going on with the ending? And I agree, it was just a messed up ending. It's almost like he just ran out of ideas or couldn't think of the way to wrap it up, and just had the most just inane kind of ending. Yeah, it was a great concept. I loved the pictures throughout, kind of added to the story. It was creepy. I don't think it was scary or anything like that. I mean, there's a few creepy parts, obviously, but yeah, it's just, yeah, and the husband of the couple too, like, he did it like a complete 180. I'm like, where did this all come from? And if you read it and you read the ending, I only give like a 2.5 stars. I'm not saying you won't like it. It's gotten very good reviews, but yeah, it's just too many loose ends and weird political stuff, and the ending was just so bad. So anyway, I was looking forward to that one, but anyway. The next one I enjoyed much better, and this is The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. So this takes, now we don't know when this takes place, maybe 150 or so years ago. It is a very isolated town. They're surrounded by this large gate, and no one can leave without the permission of their leader, who's called a prophet. Oh, Abby's getting settled for a nap there. It's a very misogynistic town. The men have a lot of power. The leader of this town, the religious head of this town, is called a prophet, and he has all these minions working for him. He has probably 12, 13 wives. It's almost very cult-like, because when he takes a new bride, surprise, it's like a young teenager, usually 14, 15-year-old. So whenever he takes a new bride, she's dressed in white and laid on the altar, and he carves a symbol into her foreheads, like, you're mine, you're my bride kind of thing. So yeah, very cult-like. He's got absolute power. Everyone does what the prophet says. His son takes over, and it's a generational thing. Men have so much power over the women here. Emmanuel is the main character, and along the border of the town, I can't remember what they called it now, the Outlands or something like that. Anyway, there's black people living along the edge, and it's a very racist society, misogynistic, racist society, and so they live on the border in poverty and that. And Emmanuel's mother actually had an affair with a black man, and it was found out, and he was burned at the stake. Emmanuel's mother fled to the forest, and no one's allowed in the forest because of these witches that were killed many, like, few centuries before. They killed all the witches, and they killed a lot of women and children who they thought were guilty but were innocent. And so her mother flees, and she comes out and gives birth to Emmanuel and ends up dying. So she's raised by her grandparents. So yeah, there's now one day she has to go into the forest to retrieve some livestock that went in there, and she knows she's not allowed, but she has to get the livestock. And then something wild happens to her in the woods and that. And when she comes out, all these disasters start happening in town, and of course people are blamed. They want to start finding out who's the witches, etc., etc. So yeah, it was a really good book. Yeah, it's kind of scary because, I mean, there's a lot of organizations and cults out there that kind of have a profit, and they're abusing women and children, and yeah, it's also like a kind of a feminist tale where you know, the town says that everything outside is evil. This is a safe place to be, and meanwhile, where is the evil, really? So yeah, I think it was very well done. I think it's her debut novel. But yeah, I thought it was very well done. So I give that like a 4.5 stars. Alrighty, and then Legends and Lattes. Oh, this one was such a good book. Travis Baldry. Yeah, this one got a lot of hype, and I finally gave into the hype. They said it was a cozy fantasy, low stakes, and they said, oh, and I usually when a book's really hyped up, I get my hopes up and then I kind of dashed. But this did live up to the hype. If you're going through a difficult time, difficult period, you're stressed in that, this is just a nice, cozy, warm hug, this book. So this is Viv, and she is an orc, and she wants to give up her lifestyle. She's kind of a nomad. And being an orc, she does a lot of killings and getting bounties, etc. And she's tired of it, and she wants to open a coffee shop. No one knows about coffee. In another city quite far away, these gnomes opened up a coffee shop, and she went there at one time, and she absolutely loved it. And she decided, you know what, I'm giving up this lifestyle. I want to open a coffee shop. And there's a lot of barriers along the way, but she does open it up, and the other characters in here are just so fun, and it's just a really feel-good book. She does have some enemies and that sort of thing. There's a lot of new friends, newfound families. It's just such a nice book. And about half an hour ago, Amazon just dropped off the prequel, Bookshops and Bone Dust. So before Viv decides to open a coffee shop, this is her story before she does that, and how she came to the decision to kind of give up her lifestyle and that. So yeah, Bookshops, hello. I'm right there. So yeah, I did get the sequel. This one is definitely a book. I rarely reread a book because I just have so many to go through. But this is definitely one I would definitely read again. So yeah, really love that one. The next one is This House is Haunted by John Boyne. And this takes place in England in 1867, and Eliza is the main character, and her mother died when she was quite young, and her father recently passed away, and she was living with her father, and she was a school teacher, and she decided to sort of just kind of leave everything behind and restart her life in a village, and she is going to be the governess for these two children in this manor in the village. When she does get there, however, there's the two children, a 12-year-old and 8-year-old, and they're like, where's mom and dad? And no one's really telling her anything. There's no adults around except this caretaker who's miserable and just kind of keeps to himself. But she's like, okay, what's going on here? She finally gets some information out of her lawyer. But she doesn't still know the full story. And as soon as she gets there, there's this paranormal activity starting to happen. And she's quite frightened, but she doesn't really want to leave the children. She doesn't want to abandon them. And so there's a lot of paranormal activity throughout the book. She finds out what's really going on and the true story of what's happening. And yeah, it was very creepy. So yeah, I give it about a 3.75. The last sentence was really creepy. I won't tell you what it is, but that last sentence is like, yikes. Okay. Alrighty, and then the last book is Witches of Litchford by Paul Cornell. And this one's a fairly short, like a novella. I think there's a few books after this I would like to get, but I haven't been able to find them, and they're kind of expensive still on Amazon. But I would like to read the rest of these. So this takes place in a small village in Litchford in England. And the town's quite divided because a supermarket chain wants to open up a supermarket, and half them are for it, half them are against it. This particular woman her name is Judith, and she does have witchy powers, and but she's kind of miserable, kind of keeps to herself, but she's absolutely against the supermarket because there is a boundary, and if that boundary is destroyed, this boundary was made centuries ago, if it's destroyed, all these malevolent creatures will come and sort of cause havoc in the village. So she's trying to stop this supermarket, but no one listens to her because, you know, they just think she's just a crazy old woman. And then she actually, there's a minister in town, and she recently lost her husband, and then when she comes back to town to preach, and then her best friend, they had a falling out, and eventually they kind of get together, these three, and they find out that, yeah, these creatures are real, and we gotta stop them. So yeah, it was, there were some really funny parts. Like Judith, she is just hilarious. I just absolutely love her. And yeah, the minister has, like, because her husband died and she feels like it's her fault, she kind of has, her faith is kind of faltering. Her her best friend opens up like a witchy shop, and though she doesn't believe in witches or anything like that. So yeah, it's interesting. It's a novella. I think it's 150 pages, but he really packed a really good story in such a short book. I was quite impressed. So yeah, I would like to continue this series. So yeah, I give that a strong 4-star. Alrighty, and this way got cool off. Okay, and the book I'm presently reading is by Susan Wigg's Family Tree, and I'm only like 25 pages into it. But there's this very successful couple in Los Angeles who has a cooking show, and something tragic happens. She returns to her hometown in Vermont, where her family owns a sugar maple farm. So yeah, I haven't gotten too far into it, but I'll review that next month. So that's it. Hope you have a great reading month. Let me know what good books you've read lately. So everyone take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.